Hello and welcome to Patrick's Models and Transports, and welcome to Model Kit Tuesday, the weekly appointment where we talk about model kits. Well, it's still Tuesday, even if it's 9:25 p.m. But I didn't have much time to make this video in advance because I was very busy, very busy these days with translation. A very long translation on the environmental sustainability report of a tannery. So, they make leather. Big, long job. Oh, it was a long one. Okay, so the job's over and done with, out the roads, and it'll be going in this month's invoice, much to my joy. Okay, there's a lot of stuff done in 4 days. See, 4 days, 5, a lot of work. Okay, so that's enough about my boring job as a translator, and let's talk about tonight's model kit. So we're going through the military stuff. Now we're looking through things that have already been built, assembled and painted. So we've got a JB Models 176 00 scale Bedford MK 4-ton general service body. So this was for many years, starting from the 1960s, the second half of the 60s, or the 1960s actually, because the Bedford TK came out in the early 60s. So throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even 90s, it was the typical British Army lorry or army truck. Anyway, it took over, it served together with its predecessor, the Bedford S-type, which was also known as the Big Bedford. The S-type was famous because the famous auxiliary fire service fire engines, the Green Goddesses, were built on the Bedford S-type chassis, and that's another story. But anyway, let's have a look at this model. So this is a model 176 scale 00, the typical British model railway scale, and in fact it goes well with my collection of British 00 scale model buses and lorries, and it'll also be able to feature on the small double scale, let's say, layout, the 1 meter by 80 centimeters roughly that I'm going to build. So let's say roughly 3 feet by 2, 3 feet by 2.5. Anyway, the compact layout. And it's a very nice kit. So we're going to have a look at it in detail now. So as you can see, it's all assembled, of course. We've already seen it in the presentation 2 weeks ago. I painted it. This has all been hand painted in Vallejo paints, brush painted, and you can see how with that Vallejo paints you don't see any brush strokes. I use water to dilute my paints in a very moderate quantity. So I put some paint onto the palette, then I maybe wet my brush, add a couple of drops of water, and then I begin with, usually to get a good finish, I'll go for 3 coats of paint. Generally, when I'm working on a model kit, I'm not using any undercoat. I don't use any undercoat. Some people have noticed they use a matte black undercoat. If the kit is green or grey, I'll go with the first coat of green in the shade. In this case here I used Vallejo olive green undiluted. Didn't mix anything. To obtain the colour of the tarpaulin, I added yellow. I mixed Vallejo yellow, matte yellow, to the matte olive green paint. When I paint Soviet vehicles, they have, especially World War II Soviet vehicles, have a slightly lighter olive green. I add a spot. It'll usually be in a ratio of 2 drops of matte of olive green to 1 drop of yellow, more or less. That's the ratio. I've got everything written down as well. I have everything written down. I take notes when I do these things because then otherwise I don't remember. But tarpaulin is a sort of 50-50 mix if I don't remember badly. Then I used a kind of dirty yellow to make the ropes here. And how did I paint the ropes? Because I've already mentioned this in another video. I used my nib pen, if I can find the thing as it is right now. So the ropes were a very tricky thing to paint. So I just used the nib pen and picked out the moulding of all the ropes with the nib pen. And I've already told you this in the previous video, the presentation video. I used the nib pen also for these back reflector stripes, for the tail lights, for the headlamps, and the side lights over here, and also to pick out the wiper blades, wiper arms and wiper blades. One thing about this this model is that the cab is one piece of transparent plastic. So it's all one piece of transparent plastic. So after that you have to paint all the steel parts of the cab and leave the windows. And that's actually a very good solution, because as long as you have a steady hand, you don't need to worry, too much about paint it first, fit the glazing afterwards, but you have to have a steady hand. Here's the trap door on the roof. I don't remember how you call this in English, but in Italy we call this trap door on the lorry, on the lorry's roof, cab roof, we call it botola da guerra, meaning war trap door. And it's not fitted in the center, it's to the side, on top of the passenger's seat, because the passenger, who is also, in Italian we call him capomacchina, meaning the vehicle chief, let's say. Now I don't know the British military terms, and here of course, Bugler 75 Ian, if you can correct me, I know Italian military terms because I served in the Italian army. And the corporal, usually it is, or the NCO, or whoever has the highest rank and is supervising the driver, has also got the role in operations zone to man the trap door on the roof, and maybe you've got your rifle or whatever. When I painted this kit, when I made it, I looked up a lot of photographs of Bedford MKs, and I noticed that later they had a kind of roof rack up here, or loading platform, that would cover the trap door. So this kind of layout with a visible soft skin, because this is really a soft skinned Bedford cab. It had this platform like a roof rack, so you can actually walk on top of the cab, and the trapdoor is not visible, or the roof rack has also got another trapdoor of its own. In fact, that was a thing I was thinking when I built this. What will I do? Will I build that with a whatever? But I just decided to go for the kit in a as it was, not complicate my life too much. Okay, so having seen the lorry, so it's a very nice kit, J&B Models. These kits were then these kits were continued by Airfix, and I was told in the presentation video again by Ian, Trumpeter 75, that they're no longer in production and they're pretty hard to come by. So just a few details on how I painted things. The wheels, first I painted them matte black and then I painted out the centers. It's very nice. All the various transmission shafts are all well detailed. Here we've got the exhaust pipe. Added a spot of soot and dirt here on the exhaust pipe. I didn't weather it. It's, you know, like as delivered, nice and clean underneath. Just out of maintenance, let's say, not as delivered. Just out of reconditioning, with the umpteenth millionth layer of paint added to the thing, because that's what army lorries are, a ton of paint. They're held together by the paint usually, and very nice with all the axles and the transmissions and the differentials. And here's the winch. Here's the big winch drum under here. So it's a very nice model. Of course, I remember reading on forums at the time that you can, yes, the rear mudguards are a bit thicker than in reality, so there are some people who are actually making these more realistic, cut these off, use thinner styrene, etc. But I just built the kit as it was. I remember the fitting this part here, the diesel tank filler cap, that was a little tiny piece, and that was a very, very, very footery job, getting that on and making sure it wouldn't fall off. But it was a really very nice model to build. I really enjoyed it, and as you can see, I'm just moving the box out of the road a second. Here I've got an EFE Bedford TK, and we can see the same cab. The die-cast one is a little bit wider, so I don't know who's too narrow and who's too wide, but the cab's the same. The cab is absolutely the same. And of course the military vehicle has wider axles, and so larger front mudguards. It's very interesting to see how, and the headlamps are mounted lower, but it's interesting to see how they simply recycled the same cab. This is die-cast model. Very nice, Bedford TK. So 4x2 tractor unit. So let's move out that. The road is not die-cast model night, it's model kit Tuesday. Okay, so now that we've had a look at let's see how much we've been going with this thing here. We don't want to make it too long. And then the phone conks out and I end up talking to myself for 20 minutes. Okay, let's have a quick look at the actual sprues, what's left in here, because, oh no, those are the instructions of a different one. Here's the sprues, and it came with a series of different decals. I went for just a simple green with the number plates, and according to there were different decals according to the registration plate you would fit on the lorry. So I didn't use the UN, I didn't make it white, so I didn't use the registrations for the UN. I didn't use the registrations, I think this here's Desert Storm, if I don't remember badly. This V here, let's have a look. Let's have a look on instructions. Here's instructions. See if the lorry can stay in view somehow. Yep, just let's have the lorry visible. So here's instructions. Quite comprehensive instructions. I want to see if you can actually see them, because of course here we have I'm just doing this there. Maybe now we can see them better. There's instructions. You begin with the cab. I painted the cab interior as well. I looked at a whole lot of photographs, and there you finish off with assembly of the rear of the lorry. It's a pity that you don't have the option to just make it with you have to, the tarpaulin is permanent on this model. I have another model of a Soviet lorry where you can actually take the tarpaulin off if you want, but we'll see that I think in next week's episode. And let's have a quick look at the, yep, at the decals. Yes, here we are. So I'm turning this down again. Special effects here. So let's see here what it says. There are three different options. We have with a registration plate 85KF27, which is what I did. I made 85KF27. We have just the no decals at all. Then we have 34GX37. We have this V logo on the side. 09KD57. We had this little decal here. I wonder why I didn't make this when I could have used the decal. No idea. I don't remember on with which criteria I went. And here's the rear end. So, and here's the same for all the models. So color scheme. Let's see what it says here. Okay. Overall color. Ah, yes. Now here it says here, it gives you the color code. So I wanted to make mine green. So that's why I went for 85KF27, because it says overall color 2 matte green. Instead, if we go on 34GX37, overall color 3 matte desert yellow, and I wanted to make it green. Then in this case here on 09KD57, overall color 4, which is matte white. This is a UN version. In fact, yep, that's the UN symbol right there. There you go, United Nations. In fact, it's not green. It's not green. It's blue. It's UN. Anyway, so that's the JB Models Bedford MK, made in Great Britain by JB Models in Peterborough. So this company no longer exists, but very, very interesting. Here's a wee potted history of the lorry. And it says here, MK series was developed from the Bedford civilian TK 4x2 chassis to meet the Ministry of Defence specification for a general purpose load carrier capable of operating in military environments throughout the world. In fact, it was the Bedford MK series, generally known as the 4-tonner, was introduced in the early 70s to replace the Bedford RL not the S, series, then in widespread use with the British Army. The MK series was developed from the Bedford civilian TK 4x2, there you go, chassis to meet the Ministry of Defence specification for a general purpose load carrier capable of operating in military environments throughout the world. The Bedford MK has been produced with a variety of different bodies, this model being based on the FV 13801, the basic left-hand drive general cargo truck. The right-hand drive version has the designation FV 1302. When fitted with a power takeoff winch, the designations are FV 13803 and FV 13804 respectively. The MK series are true multi-purpose vehicles being used as general cargo personnel carriers by all three services, as well as in a number of specialist roles including artillery tractors, light recovery, tippers, reconnaissance drone carriers, bridging trucks and as aircraft refuelers. They can be fitted with an Atlas crane or as snowplows, and with the tailgate and sides removed they can take the CB 300 range of container bodies. Originally, MK series were fitted with the Bedford 33093 6-cylinder multi-fuel engine, but from 1981 a more powerful diesel engine has been fitted, and the resulting vehicles are known as the MJ series. So height, here gives the height, of course, all the technical data, and that's it. So you've got your little potted history as well in instructions. Anyway, what can I say? It was a lovely build, and I really enjoy army lorries, also because when I was in the Italian army, that was the kind of vehicle I travelled around in. I was a corporal, and so I was either travelling in the back of the lorry or in the cab as the driver supervisor. One thing about travelling in an Italian army lorry is that Italian military regulations require the tarpaulin to be rolled up at the sides. So it's a drafty place, the Italian army lorry. The best place is right behind the cab. But when I was travelling in winter, usually I was one of the first ones that had to get out, and so I was travelling right here at the back, getting blown to bits. The benches, and here I don't know about the Bedford, the British army lorries, but on the Italian army lorries, the benches are in the middle, so you're back to back. The benches are in the centre, along the centre line, and you're back to back, and you're sitting looking out the sides of the lorry, so you get a good view of everything. There's the rolling countryside and any other interesting sights, and yes, try and socialize with people from the side of the army lorry. Never a successful technique anyway, but we could talk about that in another video. Whistling and catcalling and such like, frowned upon practices when you're a squaddy. Okay, anyway, so that was one of the reasons why I quite enjoy army lorries, and I like lorries and I like these kind of things here. But the army lorry is, I would like to find a model kit, but of the Fiat Iveco ACM 90 that we travelled on, but nobody makes them. So I'll have to. Maybe there is somebody who makes some 3D print kits that you can build. I'll have to find out. Anyway, that's that for the moment. So that's today's Model Kit Tuesday episode with the Bedford MK by JB Models. Cheerio, and see you next time. Cheerio. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and share the video. Cheerio. And tell me all your comments. I'm always very pleased to read and answer.